experience, I have great doubts about that. So based on that, I think you would see a certain stagnation of the market after a certain point, especially as Macau expands, and especially as Taiwan decides what it wants to do with the IRs, and Japan, and should Japan open up, it would have a huge impact on the Korean market. Yes.
How big is the market potentially after the laws are passed?
There's, yes. The question was how large would the market be? There is no specific study, so I can't give you any, unfortunately I can't give you any estimations, but if I were to give an individual estimation, I think it would certainly be on par with Singapore. And even if we had, let's say, 2 IRs, the same numbers as Singapore, we have a population that's 10 times Singapore. So without even looking at the Chinese visitation, the local entry would be a serious game changer. Yes.
So, what do you think the Korean like to get? Where do you think the Korean like to gamble? You know, given that the IR is going to be foreigner only, Macau, Singapore, or Manila?
Yes. Traditionally, up until the Macau's development, it's mostly been Philippines. And a significant portion has been going to Macau after its development, but a lot more has also, a lot of them have also been returning to Manila since the recent developments. And I think with Singapore, yes, it's a popular destination, but probably less so for the more hardcore gambling customers who would probably prefer to fly shorter distance to get to a casino.
So the reverse question will be, you know, what will South Korea integrate IR attract, foreigner IR attract? Would that be mainly like, you know, mainland China customers, you know, the tour groups?
Certainly, that would probably continue as it is if it's just foreigners only. But if it were to actually open up to build a mega-size IR, then you could probably see them drawing significantly from the northern population of China, who would find it a lot easier and probably closer to travel to Incheon or Busan or other destinations in Korea.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have 2 questions, if I may. Has the government actively been looking at a model similar to Singapore's, where there would be some minimal barrier to entry or some threshold over which Korean nationals could enter into casinos?
Yes, that is correct. In most of the discussions held by policymakers, both open and closed, as well as the media, Singapore is kind of the benchmarking case of discussion in terms of the regulatory framework, and it certainly would include a levy of some sort in terms of the entrance.
So it's a levy that they would be considering?
Yes.
And then the second question, and I don't know if this is one that is in your area of domain of expertise, have there been any studies on the characteristics of Korean gamblers in terms of, are they intensive gamblers when they do go to destinations, or do they prefer to enjoy other forms of entertainment alongside the gambling?
In general, the studies for Korean gambling going overseas, there haven't been any official studies, at least not in terms of government, because that's a behavior that the government cannot encourage, so they're not going to take out studies on that. But in terms of the market studies or the consulting studies that I've seen, they're known to be much more intensive gambling types rather than enjoying other forms of entertainment. But that could be partly because that's the form of destinations that they're more used to. And I think that behavior would probably either alter or would broaden in terms of the choices they would prefer if such venues of mega-sized IRs were available locally.
Thank you.
Okay, unfortunately, I think there's a lot more questions, but we're going to have to move on to our next session. Thank you so much, Stephen. That was very interesting. Our next speaker is Mr. Tim McNally. He's the chairman of NagaCorp. He also is the, you own actually a security company in Los Angeles, yes? But the most interesting background about him is that he was with the FBI for 25 years. So that is an interesting background for gaming, and he is here to talk about Cambodia. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to speak loudly and try to keep eyes as open as possible, but yet at the same time be relatively effective and efficient in getting my message out and moving this program on. I'm Tim McNally. I serve as the chairman of NAGACOR. We're based in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. You might characterize our location as certainly an emerging nation and certainly a developing environment for gaming activities. My background, as you briefly mentioned, I'm a lawyer by education. I spent a long time in law enforcement, federal law enforcement, the U.S., worked with the FBI, was involved in cases going back to the 1970s, dealing with the indictments of organized crime families in the U.S. for having hidden interest, skimming operations in casinos in Nevada, Las Vegas specifically. And obviously we've seen dramatic changes in the gaming regulatory environment, whether it's in Nevada and across the United States, Europe. The bottom line is that the gaming environment that anyone operates, you walk into an existing environment. And then it's all about improving and strengthening that existing environment. The political and economic conditions, the social conditions of any place you operate are really where you walk into, and you have to make obviously certain assessments about both business opportunity but also political and economic risks involved in that decision to enter a market. So I'm going to talk to you about Cambodia specifically today. The CEO and founder of our company is a Malaysian-Chinese gentleman by the name of Dr. Chen Lip Kern. He's a medical doctor. I'm a lawyer. Some might say we're the odd couple.